Hello everybody, here we are doing week 10 picks for this week. Now, of course, if you're looking for the review of week 9, it's going to come out a little bit later. I tried to record it. We have a family member's dog with us right now. It's storming really bad and they just keep barking, so I am creatively making sure that I cut the video before they start barking unpredictably because you can hear them in the other room, so bear with me. I'm going to make sure that they don't ruin this video. So the first game of the week will be tomorrow night as the Winnipeg Blue Bombers take on the Edmonton Elks. Winnipeg is of course going to be seeing a different team than what they probably saw last time when they played Edmonton. Edmonton ended up losing just 28-14, but McAdoo of course is not their offensive coordinator anymore, made the OC change, and of course now Tre Ford is getting his first start of the season when it seemed like he could never get out of Chris Jones's doghouse. But here we are seeing the Blue Bombers come off of a massive win over the BC Lions. Are they set up for a trap game, and is Edmonton going to be better prepared now that they had the extra week with Ford and with the new OC? I think this game is going to be one of those that you hope for the best, but you expect the worst if you are an Edmonton fan. And I have to say that my logic is the same here. Ford is a guy that I'm really rooting for as a Canadian quarterback. However, I will say this, we haven't got to see him really start since last year? I think it was one of the last weeks of the season, so we're looking at almost a year without him consistently being out there on the field. And it seems like, confidence could be an issue because we know how Chris Jones is, and I don't know. I just worry about there being a short leash against this Winnipeg side that is very talented and continues to dominate. They just made the BC Lions defense look absolutely silly. Deep throws all over the place, and they were just able to have a good game all around. Brady Oliveira had a good game, and I think for this one, it does seem like an obvious pick for Winnipeg. However, I would be ecstatic for the Elks if they're able to pick up their first home win of the year, if they upset the Blue Bombers. Having said that, though, I would not put money on that. The second game of the week is the Saskatchewan Roughriders taking on the Montreal Alouettes in Montreal on Friday night. Really hoping that I'll be able to watch this game. I would love to see it because I think this one is going to be a better than expected game. Both sides kind of underperforming. I think for the Roughriders it's more understandable because they are a team that is without their starting quarterback. However, for the Alouettes, a guy like myself that is continuously started to hype them up after really being kind of bleak on their season expectations, I think their offense is just holding them back so much. This defense will be able to keep them in these games, and this offense will have big plays, but they won't finish off drives or whatever the case is. I'm looking at Montreal and saying, if you really want to be a for sure playoff team or in the contender status, you have to be able to win games with your offense being able to perform outside of the final 10 minutes of the game or whatever it is. As for the Rough Riders, they picked up a good win over Ottawa. It should have been a bigger win. They ultimately had just a lot of turnovers that really put them in a bad spot because Ottawa was able to score points off of those, one of those being a scoop and score by Douglas Coleman. But for them, I do think that it looked pretty good. Sean Bain Jr. looked good, and I think for them, Mason Fine looked pretty good in that game. Granted, it was against Ottawa, but my logic is Ottawa's defense is not Ottawa's offense, as that makes any sense. And for this one, I have to say, with this being a home game for Montreal, them coming off back-to-back wins, I think they will pick up the W here. The defense is good. I keep saying that this offense will click, and one of these days it'll come true. However, this defensive line with Anthony Lanier that just had a fantastic game against the Red Blacks could wreak havoc on this. And I think if Saskatchewan's defensive line is able to get to Cody Fajardo like some other teams have been able to get to, the offense could sputter. However, at the same time, I don't know. I feel so torn because the Rough Riders offense has some potential, and if they look how they did against Ottawa, then I'm thinking, yeah, they can get the job done. I'm picking Montreal here. I am expecting to be wrong. I haven't really been a guy that's had a great year for picks this season. I don't think I've had a week that's been truly awful, but I don't think I've gone 4-0 all year, which past 2 years has been pretty reliable that it would happen every once in a while. These games are the games that are slipping me up, but I'm going to stick with the Owls. The third game here is also another game that I could see very much as a trap game. You have the Calgary Stampeders that just played the Toronto Argonauts and were able to pick up the win there. Mills just looked really good for them. He had over 130 yards on the ground, his longest carry being 13 yards. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that they were able to take a team that hadn't been beat all year, and yes, they did lose Chad Kelly, but they were able to beat them. And while I think for them, they are a club that probably is well aware that that doesn't matter. It also is something where it kind of gives you a little bit of confidence after having a year or start to the season that isn't exactly great. As for the Lions, they just got whooped. I mean, outright whooped by Winnipeg. The defense looked bad. The offense looked bad. And I just think that for the Lions, they're going to be pretty motivated as well. I think Calgary could beat the Lions, especially with Kadeem Carey probably playing in this game, at least from what I've read. That allows them to open up a lot of things. They've got a great group of players that can run the ball. And I think for them, they're in a spot where they could play around a little bit offensively and see what worked against the Lions, almost said Blue Bombers last week when Winnipeg played them, where they were able to get a lot of deep shots. If they're able to do that and Mayer is able to effectively get those throws to the receivers, that could be good. However, saying this, I'm not sure who's starting this game for the Lions. I don't know if they've listed it just yet. I do think that if you get beat that bad and you are a good team, you are a little bit more motivated and you are a little bit more likely to want to win the next game because you have something to prove. The defense certainly has something to prove. I do think Calgary will probably run the ball more than pass the ball, or at least I think they will run the ball a lot. So I don't think that the Lions necessarily have to worry about continuously getting beat on deep throws. However, this is one of those games where you got to say, guys, we just got demolished last week. We have to get back to where we are because Winnipeg is in first in the division, and we cannot be losing ground to them as they play an 0-8 Edmonton side. So I don't know if I made that very clear, but I'm picking BC to win this game. In the final game of the week, you have the Ottawa Redblacks taking on the Toronto Argonauts. I don't know what's happening here. I heard that Kelly was going to be fine. Now I'm hearing maybe he will miss this game. I don't know what's going to go on. This is tough as you have an Ottawa side that has been surging and been playing in a lot of close games as of late, winning those, and then Toronto coming off of a bad loss where Dukes wasn't exactly incredible, and I would say that him versus Crum, I would trust Crum more. Just because of what we saw last week against the Stampeders. Now, granted, their defensive line was able to really get a lot of pressure on him. But for this game, I'm going to be picking the Argonauts because I'm assuming that Kelly will play. Now, if he doesn't play, I think I'll go Ottawa. But I'm going to say that he plays and they're going to win. If Kelly's there, I just think that the offense is going to be too much for the Redblacks defense from time to time. And I don't expect Crum to be able to exactly light things up. I think teams might be able to figure him out a little bit more as the season goes along. I do think he has some good moments as well. But as of right now, they know that he wants to run the ball a lot. If you're able to contain him, which I think Toronto's defense has the capability to do so, then you're going to be in a good spot to win. And I'm not in love with the receiving core, which I've said before. But anyway, those are my picks for this week. You have the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Montreal Alouettes, BC Lions, and Toronto Argonauts. What are your picks for this week? I'd love to hear them down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. I thank you guys for your support so much. Everybody stay safe and have a great night. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.